Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Scott, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the next exciting thing coming for Conquest, the Last Argument of Kings, and that is Project 8. Now, there's not a ton of information available on Project 8, but I figured I would compile what I do know so far so that you guys would get an idea of what to expect from this upcoming round of voting. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, first things first, some of you are probably wondering, what exactly is Project 8? Project 8 is a really cool opportunity that Parabellum Games has given all of us to vote for which army will become the 8th army to be added to the game. Now, this voting will begin on December 26th, the day after Christmas, and will last for 6 weeks, which means that each week there will be a new round of voting, and you'll be able to pick one of 3 armies to become the next army of the game. This is the second time that Parabellum Games has done this. They did it with the 6th army of the game, and that vote resulted in the Old Dominion being added to the game. Now, lore for the armies that are in the voting will start releasing on December 26th, and will go up all the way through the end of voting, with each round of voting giving us more lore to go off of to help us make the best decision. We got some really cool information on the 3 armies during the most recent happy hour, which happened last week. Now, I've tried to compile what I know about the factions so far, so let's go ahead and check out what each of the factions has to offer. Now, the first of the 3 factions that we get to vote for are the Sorcerer Kings. Now, the Sorcerer Kings are the guild of sorcerers that conspired together to bring down Oslia, which resulted in the fall of the Old Dominion. Now, while Oslia was falling, instead of fleeing inward like normal people, the Sorcerer Kings decided to flee out into the sea. And one of the most powerful sorcerers, the King of Fire, raised a bunch of volcanoes from the ocean to create a new continent for the Sorcerer Kings to colonize. Which means that from a lore standpoint, this army is going to come alongside a expansion of the world map of Ea, which is going to be a really cool idea. Now, these sorcerers have decided that the best source for their magic would be to bind themselves to primal beings that represent the 4 main elemental powers of Ea. Their hierarchy is going to be organized in 3 tiers. You have the high courts of the kings. Now, these are the super powerful sorcerers. We were told that we will not see these on the tabletop because they're a little too powerful to be seen running around the tables and the games that we play. Now, beneath them, you have the enclaves. Now, the enclaves support the high courts, and this is a temporary name. All these names are not 100% finalized. But it said that the enclaves are going to have a high fantasy Arabic type style to them, which is going to be super cool to see. We're going to see things like Jinn and, Arabian Nights style themes. And then beneath that are the tribes. Now, the tribes live on the outskirts of their continent, and these have been described as being themed around Eastern cavalry that existed between the 11th and 13th centuries, which is a really cool concept. This army is going to look great, and it's going to play really well. I think it's going to be really cool to see how they implement the magic into this army. Now, the second army in this round of voting is a really cool one, and it's probably the one that I'm going to vote for, and that is Hell. Now, the forces of Hell have a really cool and very complicated backstory, at least in my opinion. So basically, the Nords gods, the Aesir and the Vanir, which were actually just the Weaver and Spires, decided that they didn't need to bow to the will of the dragons, and so they took one and they bound it in the roots of their great tree spire, known to the Nords as Yggdrasil, and they started using these dragons, or this dragon, to create a organic supercomputer, essentially, that could predict the future. Now, Loki became wary of this ability to predict the future because he feared that by predicting the future, you would set in stone what was going to happen and you wouldn't be able to change your fate. So he attempts to shut down this supercomputer that they made by basically betraying the rest of the gods to Aslia. Now, this resulted ultimately in the Einherjar not awakening for Ragnarok, and really became a foundational moment for the lore of the Nords. Now, the army itself is kind of what was left over of the Vanir and other forces that were with them at the time that this all happened. And we're going to have 3 different kind of thematic elements to the army. First, you're going to have the spawn of the dragon that's buried under the tree, and these are going to come in the form of lesser drakes in the army. Second, we're going to have Hela's creations, and these are going to be a new creature. We were told they're not exactly a species or a race, but they're going to be a mix between gargoyles and draconians. It's going to be a really cool theme to see on the tabletop. And then the third element of the Forces of Hell are what we're calling corrupted Nord clergy. Now these are going to be, they've been compared to the Draugr from other fantasy universes, and essentially they're going to be, as I understand it, kind of the chaos version of Nords. These Nords are going to be promising ascension to become the Einherjar, and it's going to be really cool. And they said that they're trying to design the models for this army in such a way that you will be able to convert models from your Nord army to serve in the Forces of Hell. Now, the third army that's up for voting are the Dogs of War. Now, this is being referred to as sort of a mercenary army, but we've been told that aesthetically this army is going to look like a combination of the city-states with the Rus and the 100 Kingdoms, which is a really cool idea. Now, all we've been told about the lore on these guys is that they are a mining superpower. So they have essentially discovered the equivalent of Mithril in Ea, and they're the only ones that know where to find it and know how to mine it. So they have a lot of wealth, but rather than enjoy that wealth, they center a lot of their belief system on the fear of losing their wealth, which means that there's always a balance of wealth versus power in their army. They don't want any one entity to become a super king or some all-powerful controlling underworld criminal lord or anything like that. Now, we've been told that there will be themes of several different things from history. We've been told to expect elements of the Polish Commonwealth as well as Hungarian troopers, and they specifically mentioned the Black Army, which is the kind of first professional mercenary force that was seen in history. Now, as mercenaries, there is kind of a clarification that needs to be said here. This is not going to be a soup army, like I had said in previous videos. Everything that was told to us about this army gives me the impression that they will be able to send select units from their army to fight with other armies, but it won't go the other way around. They're not going to be grabbing a Jotnar from the Nords and just throwing it in with the rest of their army. So this is essentially going to be a way for Parabellum to give every other army in the game an extra unit, and then have an army that brings all those units together to fight as one army. Now, they also said that this is going to be a cool army in that this is going to allow them to show off ideas for future races and factions that'll come to the game, because these mercenaries would have troops from all the different armies, so we might be able to see things that are 5 to 10 years down the road that'll be added to the game. Now that's about all we know about these new armies so far. Now I just want to give a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm not a lore expert, and I probably butchered some of the pronunciation or maybe even just completely misunderstood elements of the lore that was given to us during Happy Hour. Either way, I hope that this has been helpful to you and has given you an idea of what the armies will look like in this next round of voting. I know I'm super excited for it, and I think I already know where my vote's going. Like I said earlier, I think I'm going to be voting for the Forces of Hell. But if you enjoyed this video today, go ahead and please like it and then subscribe to my channel so you can see future videos I make. I'd like to also give a shout out to all my channel members that make videos like this possible. If you would like to become a channel member, hit the join button below this video. As always, have an amazing day, and we'll catch you in the next one.